Welcome to the Group Home Riches Podcast. If you have the desire to be your own boss, create your own schedule, and become financially free while at the same time helping people in need, then you've come to the right place. At GroupHomeRiches.com, we teach people exactly like yourself how to get started in the group home business, and on this podcast, you're going to hear their stories firsthand. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Group Home Riches Podcast. Today, we are joined by Terri Arcieri, who I just noticed a bunch of very interesting posts in school. She's kind of gone down the routes and explored some avenues that I know a ton of you are interested in. Me and Andy are as well. So Terri, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
We are also joined by Mr. Andy Rothschild, the founder of Group Home Riches. Andy, welcome, brother.
Hola, hola.
So, Terri, before we get into the nitty gritty and kind of explore what's going on the website here and your story, why don't you just give a brief intro, let everybody know who you are, where you're located, and everything like that.
Yeah, so like you said, my name's Terri Arcieri. I live in Washington State, and I'm out on the Olympic Peninsula, which is kind of like the bedroom community for Seattle. So you have to take a ferry over or drive all the way around, across the narrow bridge to get to Seattle. We like it that way, so we're kind of rural and quaint. We do have a couple of big Navy bases out here, so we have a lot of people moving in and moving out all the time. In 2024, I opened 3 recovery houses, and mine are all clean and sober houses. And I'm about to open my 4th one. I'm hoping to close this week.
That was last year, you said that you did 3?
I opened 3 last year, yeah.
Nice. Amazing start. So before we get into kind of the details and how you started and kind of your plans for the future, let's rewind a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background. What were you doing before this? And, you know, what made you want to look into this?
So I just finished a career with the government. I was in cybersecurity for 10 years. And I was trying to find something to supplement my retirement because I was ready to retire from the government. And I started looking at residential assisted living, and I went down that rabbit hole for about a year and then realized the barrier to entry was just so huge, and I was going to have to take on these big SBA loans and probably end up working in the facility because as soon as somebody called in sick, and then it wasn't making sense for me. And then I heard a podcast about group homes, and I just knew that was the direction I was going to pivot in. So that's what I did. I pivoted, started looking for resources for Group Home Riches, and I found you guys on my podcast player. I listen to iTunes, so I just loaded up all your podcasts, and I listened to probably over 100 of them. But it was really cool because then I got to hear all these other operators and their journeys of how they got started, and you know, their things that happened to them along the way, so I could learn from them, and took a lot of notes and started buying houses.
So you basically you kind of got stuck for about a year in the educational process, which was going down the licensed facility route, correct?
Yeah, for residential assisted living, because you know I'm a baby boomer, and the boomers are coming. So it's a big demographic. So I thought, you know, that would be the route I wanted to go, and I did take a long time trying to learn it, but decided that wasn't for me.
Now, did you start going down that path because you thought that's what you kind of needed to do? Were you aware of our business model and you just chose that? Or did you feel like you needed to go down that route and figure out how to become licensed and everything like that?
Yeah, kind of. So I wanted a real estate play where I could own the real estate and own a business, so I could double dip a little bit there. So that's how I got turned on to residential assisted living. And I didn't hear about group homes or shared living type arrangements till about a year after I'd already been trying to learn residential assisted living, which you're right, is a license.
And it was a year of educational stuff. Did you ever become licensed or?
No. I mean, I spent $30,000 on a mentorship group, the insider inner member people, like platinum type thing, where they hold your hand and give you the business plans and all that. And then I even got as far as talking to bankers about getting an SBA loan, which to start a business was about 1.2 million. And then the rates started jacking up, and it no longer made sense. So I just kind of abandoned that plan. And then I heard about this type of business, and so I started pursuing other mentors in this area. And that's where I found you guys.
That can be extremely lucrative, but I think you kind of outlaid the challenges with it. It's just it's a lot of red tape.
Mm-hmm.
Did you try to start it on your own and like get through all the legal stuff or their certifications without
Oh,
a mentor?
without a mentor?
Yeah.
No. But I did, because every state's different. So I had to learn my state, and I
Yeah.
started learning what my state would require for licensing and sprinkler systems, and there was so much. So I looked and tried to buy an already existing residential assisted living, and then I looked at ground up construction, and none of it really made sense. And then I was worried that, somebody would call in sick on a graveyard shift and I'd have to go pull a shift. And I had a full-time job, so that wouldn't work.
Yeah. It's challenging for sure. And
Yeah.
anyone out there listening, you're on like YouTube or Spotify, we have a great podcast that we did with a buddy of mine who was successful with RALs. That he was able to retire after 10 years, but he did it with a full head of gray hairs. So uh, go listen to that podcast with Yaz when we get into that. And I spent some time, he showed me like walking through certifications, and we've looked into it for a couple people actually. And I understand why the mentorships cost that much money. It's a lot of stuff to get through.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine it. Andy, have you ever like looked into the licensing route or explored it like at all or anything like that?
No, no, it's too much work, too much of a headache. I mean, have I looked into it? Yeah, I've looked into it, but pretty much anything that involves the government, unless you have somebody inside at the government or in one of these government organizations that's basically just going to give you free money. Otherwise, it's not worth it. I mean, it's just too much time, too much energy, too much stress. You will spend 4 years trying to get quote unquote licensed, and then you're going to be dealing with more headaches after that. So the best thing to do is just to get started and run these things basically like all bills paid apartment buildings, same sort of concept.
Yeah, I think it's a great business for people who do have the time, who have a lot of money to invest in it, right? That do want to kind of be more hands-on, but it costs a lot of money and time. And I pulled up our gold course. You can see the price here, guys. 199. So we
Brandon,
won't
are you sure that's not $30,000?
well, no, it's not.
Right. It's a
It's a
really good course too. I took your course, and I think it only took a week to consume all of it.
Yeah, we have our higher end like coaching services and then even the done with you service, but to be completely upfront, look, you don't need it. Terry, were we hiding anything? Was there some secret info that you didn't get out of the gold course or anything like that? Or was the gold course pretty sufficient for you?
Well, between the podcast and the gold course, I felt like I got a lot more than I would got from anybody else.
Beautiful. And
Especially like the boots on the ground type stuff, like getting your list of people to contact, and calling them, getting that communication going. All of that, other people don't really talk about that. They talk more about how to get the house, where to get the house, and then they don't talk about the hard work that you got to put up front.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can spend your time doing that and then you're just kind of left with an empty house. And we definitely want to avoid that. So it sounds like you started like the research process. That was like 2023-ish.
I started about the end of 2023. And that's when I
Okay.
bought my first house. I mean, I didn't wait very long. I pulled some money out of my 401k and went and bought a house. And here in Washington, our average house is around 500,000. So if you're an investor and you're getting a conventional loan, that's about 25% down, which is 125,000. So I couldn't do very many that way. But I did get my first home in October of 2023, and it took me a good 6 months to furnish it and fill it.
Okay. So you were, researching the RALs, then you found us on the podcast. You got the gold course immediately. What was it, a couple weeks, month or two after that you got the first house and
Yep.
was ready to rock and roll?
Yep.
Nice. See, so guys, she wasn't just wasting time, diddling around on the internet doing the RAL stuff. She's a go-getter. She's organized. She's sharp, and it still took her a long time to just get through the stuff, even to figure out like, all right, this isn't for me. So, found the gold course within a couple of weeks. You're rocking and rolling, but it sounds like was it a property that needed some rehab or like repairs and stuff?
It was an older house, but it was a split level. So, and they're not very popular here, but it's perfect for shared housing because it had bathrooms up and bathrooms down, bedrooms up, bedrooms down, and a little kitchenette down. So it made perfect sense. The only thing is that I won't do again is it was in an HOA.
Yeah.
I haven't had any complaints yet, but it's a matter of time.
Yeah. Like, has the HOA said anything to you, or there anything in
No, and I
the
just
laws
kind
that
of
they
slid
did?
in quietly, just filled my house. Didn't really tell anybody, but the neighbors kind of found out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the guys that are living in my house, I only do men, and all my houses are clean and sober houses, so everybody has to be clean and sober. And I have the business model that I chose to do is I'm following NAR standards. For Washington State, our affiliate is Walker, WAQRR. I opened a level 2 home and got certified, which means it's like Oxford houses is our level 1. Ours is a level 2. So we have a live-in house manager. So what I did is I gave up, you have those little rooms. You can't really fit 2 beds in. My house manager got a little room, but it's a private room for being the house manager. And that's pretty much the only perk he gets, but I have all my house rules and everything, and he makes sure everybody follows the house rules and lives a clean and sober life. And
Beautiful. So let's unpack that, because this is kind of different from the basic business model that Andy still follows to this day, and that many of the students go down. So you got the property, had the gold course. Had you started like reaching out to local organizations like before you had the property, or?
nope, I did it all backwards. I bought the house first,
Uh-huh.
and then I started trying to fill it.
Okay. Did you get people in there that were just general population, or, referrals from organizations, or did you start first with that, like the sober living certificate
So I
process?
started with the Department of Corrections,
Uh-huh.
because our DOC will pay for 6 months of housing.
Mm-hmm.
So I started by getting approved for them. They came and toured the house and put me on a list saying, yes, you're approved. And then I could get people that are coming out of prison to stay there. And then I went to treatment centers, and where I live, there's a lot of treatment centers. So I just kind of started Googling them, and I made a little brochure, and I just went around to all the treatment centers and gave them my application packages and my brochures, and they were excited, really excited. And I offered them to come tour. Whoever wanted to come see it, I'd let them in, let them see it. It turns out that my houses are pretty nice compared to I'm not trying to throw down Oxford houses, but they rent older homes and disrepaired homes, and mine are, not great. But then I had to it took me a while to get house managers. So what I did is I started asking the treatment centers, hey, do you have any alumni people that have graduated from your program, maybe got a year clean, who might be interested in being a house manager in exchange for some free rent? and I was able to pick up that house manager. But during this time, I was also opening 2 more homes and furnishing them and working a full-time job. So it was busy.
I thought you were retired.
I just retired. I took the fork in the road from the government.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. All right. Wow. So you were doing all this while you still had the full-time job. That's amazing.
yeah.
Which by the way, everyone, that's the way to do it. I think there are a lot of people, understandably, that are super excited about, having their own business and getting things up and going, but you need to get something going on the side, i.e. your first group home, while you have a job. And it's totally possible to do. I mean, it's very, 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 very possible to do. So
Yeah, 100%. We have 2 of our coaches that got up to like 5 or 6 properties while they were still working full time. So totally doable. All right, so you got the property, you started just doing kind of the basic community outreach that we teach in the gold course, and obviously
Mhm.
you figured stuff out on your own once you got out there. So did you start like their certification process immediately, or did you make those connections in the community and then they were, hey Terry, why don't you check this out and kind of
Oh, so the reason that I decided to go that route is because my mentor, another mentor, recommended it, and they were rolling out grants for opening new recovery homes. I applied for and was awarded 3 grants for $150,000 each to open 3 recovery homes. And the one I had just bought qualified as one of them. So that was cool. And then, now I have to get, I got 3 grants. So then I had to go find 3 homes. So I had, the one I just purchased was one of them. And then I purchased the second one. I had to use some private money because I had already spent a lot of my money. And then the third one I rented.
amazing. So what is you got the certification first, correct?
No, I got that after. That was like one of the requirements.
Yeah.
The grant was to get certified, which means they come over, you have to have like fire extinguishers, exit signs, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, a ladder if it's a second story so they can get out if there's a fire, just safety stuff. I'd
Uh-huh.
make sure I would, had rooms with windows so people could get out if there's a fire, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So you had the property, you had already been working with the treatment centers and were taking in people for a sober living property.
Yeah,
All right. And then through your connections, you found these other opportunities and through your mentor as
yeah.
well. It sounds to me it's probably because I'm trying to wrap my head around it too. It's probably similar to working with Section 8. So like Section 8 has a whole bunch of paperwork to get through as well, but once you get that connection or somebody that has a voucher, someone from Section 8 will come through and kind of walk you through the process. It's not like you don't have to do a bunch of paperwork up front and kind of figure it out on your own and be able to understand legalese to get through everything, right?
Yeah. Well, plus I live in a blue state. Washington's a blue state. So they put a lot of money into homelessness and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. What's the name of the main like sober living certification? You mentioned it. It's
So NAR, NARR, National Association of Recovery, something, something.
yeah, here it is.
Okay. So that's NAR, and then they have an affiliate for every state.
Okay.
So each state would have their own name, and it usually has the name of the state in it. Like ours
Yeah.
is Walker for Washington.
You probably do like NAR, Texas or NAR, whatever state you're in. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you would go to that one for your state and then look to see if they have grants, or, they usually have resources, and they also have training to help you fill your houses. And especially if you're using helping people with substance abuse.
Amazing. You needed to have the property first in order to start participating with this and then apply for the grants and everything like that, right?
Nope. I applied for the grant, and I got awarded the grant, and then I had to go find the property. I actually put to be determined on my grant, and they awarded. I didn't even have a place identified. But then I had to have a place by May. I'd have 2 more places by May. So, and fortunately, I have a real estate license, so I was able to get in there to the Northwest MLS and find a house quickly and then put an offer on it. But I had to get creative on how I did it. So.
Okay, that's very cool. So you started working with these guys and the grants before that first property was filled, or?
Yep. Well, I had bought the house. I was already planning on doing it. And then I heard about the grant opportunity. So I applied and I got awarded a grant. And then, you know, part of the grant was you had to acquire a house before a certain time frame. And then and it could be something you rent. And then you had to get certified through the NAR program within 6 months after that.
All
So
right.
I didn't have to have it all up front. They just worked with me.
We might blow our school group up if this is the case. So could you have started that process if you didn't have that property and if you hadn't like started doing the?
Yeah, you can be a member without owning property.
Okay. All right. That's extremely interesting. We'll probably blow up the school group with that little bit of information because I didn't know that.
They're under SAMHSA, which is the federal program. SAMHSA has a lot of grants too. If you guys are interested in federal grants, that's where a lot of your block grants come from.
What is it? SAM?
Yeah, that's the mental health, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you?
SHA, I think.
I think there's an H in there. SAH. Could be wrong.
No, SAMHSA.
SAMHSA maybe.
Nice.
Yeah, that's looking closer. There we go.
It's all the substance abuse and mental health grants, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a ton of money out there for people if you're going to be willing to house people who have had substance abuse issues in the past. It doesn't even have to be a current one. It could be alcohol.
Okay. Very cool.
And there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money for these types of, if you want to house these types of people.
Did you get some of that SAMHSA money?
I think it was a trickle down effect. SAMHSA is the federal money, and then they give it to the states, and then the states.
Yes, and that's kind of the thing that we're always trying to tell everybody, because we'll have people come to us, oh, we want to get grants, and our big focus is don't focus on getting grants, focus on talking to the grant recipients. And it sounds like that's basically what you did.
Yeah. And it's more like frosting because, I mean, you have to have your foundation yourself to provide the services, you know. The grants are like the frosting on the cake. And you don't know if you'll get it too. So you can't bake everything on it.
Right.
And you said earlier that think of like the application almost like a resume.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted. I get a lot of questions on your school group about how do you get grants? And you know how when you're looking for a job, you fill out a resume and you put in all your job history and all your information. And then when you go to apply for a job, you tweak it to match the job you're trying to apply for. You know, maybe you put the keywords out of the job announcement into your resume so that the search engines will pick your resume out of that bulk of resumes. The same thing with a grant. You write up a little, kind of like a resume template, which would have your mission, vision, maybe what you do for your community, and then go and look for some statistics of like how much homelessness is in your area, how much, you know, of whatever problem you're focusing on, get some statistics for your area. And then you have all that information, like a resume. And then when you apply for a grant, you can just pull from that. And then, so what I did is my first grant, didn't even have a home, so I didn't have anything to pull from. So I just kind of wrote it up like, oh, I have lived experience, because I actually was in addiction when I was younger. So I know what that's like. And so I pulled from those experiences and just wrote up a story. And then I uploaded my answers into ChatGPT and had to rewrite the darn thing 3 or 4 times, like that paragraph. I uploaded the grant too, which is the grant question, and then my answer that I wrote, and then I had them tweak it 3 or 4 different ways, like give me a professional vision, give me an empathetic version, and then I cherry picked what I liked for my grant, and I got it awarded.
Andy, you don't need resources, you need what?
To be resourceful.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite quotes from Andy. Wow, that's all right. That's amazing. So when you wrote your resume, you applied for the grant, had you already had like your website set up and kind of started to make connections and at least had a basic understanding of the industry?
Well, I did have a basic understanding, because I did have family members that went through recovery. I had a sister that went through recovery, and she lived in Oxford House, and I would go visit her at her Oxford house. And, it was a whole bunch of women living together, and they were shared rooms. And I watched how just being there at that house helped her get back on her feet. She got a job. She was getting her self-esteem back, and it was just really a blessing in her life. And she lived there for 2 years. And so when I heard the opportunity, I already had a familiarity with it, and I already knew that it could be a blessing to the community. So it just landed just at the right time in the right place in my life. And so that's why I was so quick to buy a house, because I wasn't afraid of it, because I knew what it looked like in real life. I just didn't have the systems. And that's where you guys came in place. You helped me with my systems, policies and procedures, and that kind of stuff.
This is awesome. I'm learning a bunch of stuff. Did you know about this stuff, Andy, or?
I know about the SAMHSA stuff, but no, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we learn more from talking to people like you, our students, Gold Course members, what have you, than just being out on the street dealing with the same people day in, day out. So,
Well, and Andy, another thing that I did is I formed a nonprofit while I was doing all these houses and everything. I formed a nonprofit, and so I have a nonprofit and a for-profit running my business. So my nonprofit brings in the grants and everything. So that $450,000 I got last year came through my nonprofit, so I didn't have to pay taxes on any of that money.
love that.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then my for-profit business does the boots on the ground, the operations management, the day-to-day stuff, and I just my for-profit invoices my nonprofit, who just pays me. That way I don't have to do a W-2 paycheck, which, you have to play the employer side and employee side.
Yes.
But my for-profit company is an S corporation, so I can take the money different ways.
Yes. Yeah. Most of it in distribution. Exactly. And
Yes.
we don't get too much in. We're not accountants or whatever, but we do try to educate all of our students on that. That way they're not getting hammered with Social Security on one end and FICA and FUTA and SUTA and everything else on the other. Take yourself a small salary and then pay the rest of it in the form of distribution so you can eliminate those other taxes.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to learn how to make money. It's another thing to learn how to not give it all to the government.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother learning curve, which owning the houses, I was able to do some cost segregation and bonus depreciation, and for every house I opened.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it was fun.
Gotta learn how to earn it and then how to keep it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, this is amazing. So you mentioned it a couple of times. How important was mentorship to get everything going and rocking and rolling to you?
It's huge. I mean, you can do things scrappy and do things the hard way and, try to learn it, or you can just go pay somebody who can just give you the information. And then you can always add on, nuts and bolts, what you like to do or tweak it your way. But it's just such a time saver. Get the systems from somebody else.
Yeah. So we believe the same thing. So
Yeah.
not just with like the real estate stuff, but there's a reason why everyone listening to this finds us. Me and Andy have invested a ton of money into like just the digital marketing stuff. So we practice what we preach. If you guys have the resources, I believe in paying for shortcuts 100%. And
Yeah.
it sounds like, I mean, just looking over this stuff, I mean, you had a mentor that kind of helped you navigate like the
Yes. And
nonprofit
then
stuff.
another really cool thing is our is Walker, our NAR affiliate.
Mhm.
And if you have a house that's certified under Walker, then you have to pay property tax. So because I have a 501c3, I submitted a waiver, and now I don't have to pay property taxes on all my houses.
Rewind that. You say you do not have to pay property tax.
Hold on. See, this is why I like talking to people. It's I think I know that what you just said. I think you pulled a Rahm Emanuel, which is something I wanted to do a long time ago, but I never got around to doing it. So tell me that one more time.
So he's got Walker up on his screen. So my house has got Walker certified. And then once you're Walker certified, our state will allow you, because I'm a 501c3, I'm a nonprofit, to waive my property taxes.
Wow.
Now, my nonprofit is the tenant. I'm the owner of the house, or my LLC is the owner, but all it has to be is a tenant and certified, and now I don't pay property taxes on any of my houses.
That is unbelievable. If I could pull that off in Texas, I would be a very, very, very happy man.
All you have to do is write like a triple net lease. So the lease agreement says that the tenant pays the taxes.
Unbelievable. Just by doing that, you're more profitable than the average landlord.
Well, and our properties are expensive. So
Yeah.
average house is 500,000. So our taxes are probably, $5,000 a year, which, is a chunk of change. It's like $450 a month per house.
Yeah, Andy, I think you would save a little bit more than that.
Yeah, we're at about, depending on what city you're in, call it 2 to 3% of assessed value.
Wow.
All right, that's amazing. So I hope you guys are listening, taking notes, bookmarking this so you can come back and go through what we just covered. I know I am. I think Andy might want to bookmark this when we talk about
Yeah,
state
I love that.
property taxes. So just to rewind, guys. So if you want to look this stuff up,
Yeah, just try a different state there, like
yeah, you just
Arizona
you're gonna do NAR, NARR, and then just insert your state. So NAR, California. We'll do NAR, California, sober living. And that should pop it up. So it's probably this one.
Yeah.
And you can probably find it just through the NAR, main website.
Yeah. So I think Andrew Lamb was talking about that he got this certification too for his house.
Yeah, so he's one of our guys that's in the school group as well that has kind of gotten into this space, and I know I believe he helps people kind of walk through the process a little bit. I believe so. Don't quote me.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Okay, very cool. And this is stuff, at least in your state, you could go through all this without the property.
Yes. In fact, I have a friend that lives in another state that she joined our association just for the benefits. I mean, they do free training and they tell you, how to get money, where to get money, how to get resources. So they want you to be successful.
All right, this is amazing. I would guess just because you mentioned the resume thing, I would just assume it helps with the resume. Did you have a website when you applied?
No, in fact, I made that myself. I can There's typos
Okay.
on it I gotta go fix.
So I would bet that helps. You know, if you have the website, if you have some connections in the local area already, I would just bet that that helps. Maybe it's not required though.
You know what
Um,
really helped me was, yeah, I had the website, but I made a brochure and I
mhm.
went just to the places, that are local to me that would have people that need to stay at my house, and I would give them brochures. And my brochure kind of stated everything that we do and what our fees are and stuff like that.
Okay, very cool. So were you making those connections with the treatment centers and places like that before you became certified? Or was it the other way around?
Well, it was such a whirlwind because I had to do so many houses and furnish them and have a
Yeah.
job. It took me longer to get full because I had so many houses.
Yep.
I think it was a good 6 months before my first house, one house was all the way full. But then when word got out, it just kind of like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but the treatment centers would tell each other and people would tell each other. And then I got drug court involved and drug court would send me people. And I got people from all over the state coming, all over the state of Washington from other treatment centers. And then once I got on DOC, now I'm on their database. So I think we have 13 prisons or something. All the prisons can call me.
Yeah, we call it the snowball effect.
Yeah,
Once
that
once you
happened.
yeah, once you start talking to these people, they're gonna spread the word. It's gonna help, obviously, if you're in it for the right reasons. You're not being a slumlord or anything like that. If you're professional, you're confident, you're sharp. The word's gonna get out because these
Yeah,
people, every city, every demographic, there's nonprofits, there's government money that's going into these organizations. They're looking for people like Terry, like Andy, like all of our other,
yeah.
interviewees that you've heard. Do you want to touch on that? What was the reception like when you did start, the networking and speaking with these what we call referral sources?
They were like very excited. They would like try to grab up their people. Hey, this girl's in here and she's got these great brochures. And I took copies of my application so they didn't have to like print it. I made little folders with my brochure in there. It had my prices. And then it had some pictures of the inside of my houses to show that they were really quality houses. They were nicer houses. And the word just got out. And then the guys that are staying in the house, they go to AA meetings, or they're into meetings. They go to a lot of meetings for, their demographic. And they tell each other, and then they would recommend people to move in. And they would call and say, hey, I got this friend, And then I have a house that my very first house is now, it's kind of like the maybe graduated house. Everybody in there is working now. They're off their programs. They don't get any more free money from the county or the state or any of the programs, but they were there long enough to go get jobs. And every single person in the house, which is 10 people, all have jobs, and they choose to just stay.
What's the intake process like and how important is that?
So mine's pretty important because people have to be clean and sober.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions about clean and sober, and there's a lot of questions because I take people out of prison, about their crimes.
Mhm.
And, if they're a sex offender or an arsonist, I can't take them because my insurance won't cover it. So I have a little bit of leeway there. And then I also can look, so if they have, maybe schizophrenia and something else, and they're in behavior court, then do I really have what it takes to take in somebody like that? Because they would probably be interrupting the house. And, my house manager lives there, would they be able to handle that? So there's some executive decision that happens. After I look at the application, then I interview the person and ask them to read my rules, and can you live with those rules? Because not everybody wants to live with, the type of rules that we have. We have 14 pages of rules, like a curfew, and they can't have people spend the night in the house. And I have all men, and, they get discouraged with that because they want to have girls stay the night, but I don't allow it.
You got to be tough to run this stuff. It's an actual business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still very similar to your model, Andy. It's just you go through the certification process, and then that probably opens up just more opportunities, right?
Yeah, I mean, you might be doing some additional extra stuff. At the end of the day, I think the key takeaway is you have to get started, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you got your business up and going. You started advertising to a lot of these people. The next thing you know, these guys are going to their AA meetings, and then after they go to the AA meetings, they start talking. You got more people coming to you. The next thing you know, you're able to select the type of people that you want. Next thing you know, you're dealing with drug court, you're dealing with this, you're dealing with that. None of this stuff will happen unless you get started.
Right.
Awesome. And then
And my
along,
house managers run everything. So I just we all go out to dinner once a month. And then we talk about what struggles we're having, because they have to keep the house clean, and, are they having any curfew abusers, or, people stealing food or whatever the drama is. So we talk about that and how to work through that. And it's been working pretty good.
that's key. And I want to touch on that a little bit. When I tell like our coaching clients, a lot of times we found that people will start just with that first property and kind of do everything on their own, which is not too much to handle, even if you don't have the house supervisor. And then like a house supervisor just steps up. Like that's
Yeah.
something we've seen a lot in the school group and in a couple interviews and with our coaching clients. But I love your idea. And I always tell people this, if they're, hey, how do I find a house supervisor? Hey, reach out to your connections, your referral sources, and ask for referrals. So it sounds like that's what you did, but why don't you break down kind of the house manager, or what we call the house supervisor? Why don't you break down what that is, how important it is, and remind us how you find those people?
So all mine came by referral, and a lot of them I would just talk to the people that were actually sending me people, either the treatment centers or the IPOs. People like there's a big push in Washington State for peer support. So there would be people that would come along, and maybe you're just new to drug court and you need to go to all these meetings or go get your driver's license or something. They'll drive you around. It's a really cool program that they have here. So I would ask them, do you know anybody that would like to be a house manager? Because I'm looking for one. And, I give them my criteria that they need to be clean at least a year, and that they would have to live in the house. And I did not have a problem getting any house managers.
Beautiful.
And they're all really great guys. And of course, they're all coming out of addiction too, so nobody can pull the wool over their eyes. They're seasoned.
Mm-hmm.
And they do all my UAs for me. People get UA'd when they come in, and then they have random UAs. And then, if we suspect something, they'll get a UA. And I've only had to do one. And I'm a solo person, I don't have a female, and working by myself here.
Remind me and the listeners, what's a UA?
Oh, it's a drug test for, did they pee in the cup, and
Gotcha.
and then it'll light up with lines if they have substance in their urine.
If they fail that, then do you go through the eviction process, or is it?
They just leave. They have to leave.
Yeah.
Within, like 15 minutes, they gotta leave. Their stuff can stay. We'll hold their stuff for 30 days. They can go to a detox or whatever. If they can prove they're clean within 72 hours, we'll let them come back. But that's their window right there, 72 hours. And that's in Washington state law.
Worst case scenario, can you get law enforcement involved? And
yeah, we've had law enforcement come before.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody didn't want to leave.
And they're just familiar with the process.
Yep. They just say, you gotta go. She don't want you here. You're not, you can't be here.
You're gone.
You're gone.
Right.
And then too, we're friendly because we take people in from the prisons. We have what they're called CCOs, they're Department of Correction officers, that the guys, when they get out of prison, they report to. I have them come and tour my house, and it's written in my house rules that they're to be let in. If they ever come to the house, whoever answers the door is to let them in. And we, let them know that, we're here, we're here to support your guys. And they like that. They like that a lot.
Beautiful. So day-to-day kind of, management of the home, you're focusing on the real estate stuff, the local connections, just kind of overseeing everything. You have your live-in peer support managers, which would
Yep,
be kind of similar to Andy, your house supervisors. Do you have a operational manager or anything like that, or is that
not yet,
is that
but
the organization
I'm
right
getting close.
there? Yeah,
Yeah,
very
I need one.
cool. How much time would you say that you spend on a weekly basis just with the day-to-day activities and
My
everything?
house manager?
Yourself.
Oh, myself, I feel like I spend a lot of time because like now that I've got all these houses, I'm about to close on my fourth house this week. And I'm gonna be
That
furnishing
is
that.
awesome.
So I'm also doing the intake for all the people coming in the house, and then I'm doing, the bookkeeping and all that stuff. So I'm trying to hire a VA to do my bookkeeping for me. I'm trying to put in my systems now to help me manage it all. But I did retire, so I have more time on my hands.
Beautiful. I'll send you a little something on hiring virtual assistants that'll help you out.
Thank you.
You're
I'm
gonna
gonna
need
need
that.
it.
Yeah. Once you
Yeah, I
once
want to be like Andy, where he says he just logs in once a month.
And look, I do tell everybody that is the case with this. Pretty much all I'm doing right now is bookkeeping related work, which is minimal, minimal, minimal. But I mean, I'm still working every single day. I mean, I'm looking at my implied yields based on this stuff. I'm taking it, I'm plugging it into my Excel spreadsheets. I'm doing tax related stuff right now. So I'm still working. I'm definitely not working, like I used to, but I'm still pretty busy. And most of the time what I am busy with is stuff that I do legitimately enjoy doing, which is, looking for property, stuff like that, which really haven't been buying much property over the last couple of years, but there's always little things to do when you own stuff.
I think the goal for most business owners they should be working towards is to be to the point where you're working on the business and not in it.
Yeah.
Terry, you've only been like, has it even been a year, a full year that you've been, open for?
No, I just probably a year and 3 months.
Yeah.
You're
So
you're you're doing amazing. That
yeah,
is awesome.
yeah,
Thanks.
there's not many businesses where you're kind of to the point or almost to the point of, working on the business after the first year. So that's amazing. So
Well, so I'm older, so my goal is to buy one house or two every year, and then in 7 to 10 years, sell one every year as part of my retirement plan.
what do you think about that, Andy? You're a long-term strategic thinker.
Yeah, I like that. Me personally, I like the idea of starting to pay off the debt and
Mm-hmm.
keeping the houses. If of course you can, you have to look at it depending on the interest rate environment and everything else, but and also depending on your age, it is without question much easier to just sell things, put it in the bank, and try to live off, 4 or 5% income versus the rental income. But if you do have a decent amount of energy left, I think it's not a bad idea to just try to get them paid off so you don't have to deal with the debt, and then, put somebody in place to run them and just live off of that. I like that idea as well. But I think they're
Yeah.
all wonderful ideas.
And then again, like thinking long term, Andy, we haven't really talked about it that much. We do need to do some content on it, but you could, not just sell the real estate, but you could sell it as a business in real
Yes.
estate.
Yeah, absolutely. You could also just sell the business and have the business lease back from you, which is pretty nice as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. With your triple net lease.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I think it'll be a lucrative retirement plan for you if
Yeah.
you can continue to and if you can continue this pace as well. So you mentioned you kind of devoured our podcasts, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you're familiar. Well, I'm sure you've been on the webinars where we break down the kind of general numbers that we see for
Yeah.
the most part. Are the numbers kind of comparable to where you're at and in this demographic, or what
So
is
I
that?
charge, like, so when I own the house, I charge a little over 1,000 more than my mortgage payment, so that my debt to income ratio gets wiped with the rental income. And then for each house, I charge 700 a bed because that's what the going rate is in my area. And they're all shared
Mhm.
rooms. Unless it's a private room, then I charge 950.
All right, so it's a little, a little bit more than kind of what we use, but pretty comparable. And it's probably bumped up just due to the market where you're at, just a little
Yeah,
higher cost of
we're
living,
expensive. Yeah,
nicer properties. You mentioned shared, and then you have some, you have the private option as well for people that want it. In the
yeah.
shared rooms, are you doing only two to a room, or are there any that have bunk beds?
No bunk beds, two twin beds, and then they share the closet and they get a dresser.
Cool. Are most of your, licensees or, guests, are they more long term or is it short term? What
Well,
is that?
I don't really know because I've only been a year, but I have people that are still there. I mean, when their program quit paying, they stayed.
Yeah.
So I guess that's to be determined, but it's really expensive here. So, I'm paying all the utilities, and $700 is pretty cheap. You can't get anything for $700 here.
Bingo. That's why we're here though, right?
Yeah.
And that's a trend that's not going away. I don't care where you are, even if you're in Oklahoma City, it's a trend that's not going away. I mean, Brandon and I were talking about it the other day. You guys got to just do real quick, easy, simple math. I mean, where does all the lumber come in from? Comes in from Canada. Where's all the cement come in from? Comes in from Mexico. Assuming these tariffs actually go through, just think about it. Everything's going to get more expensive.
Well, if
Demand
we
for
buy
home.
anything from those countries, they already have tariffs on them. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think all that will shake out. All the government movement will shake
Yeah,
out.
I do as well. But the one thing that will always remain constant, the government is going to continue spending money, and in order to spend money, they're going to have to continue printing money. So there's going to be a huge need for affordable housing.
Right.
And when things get more expensive, unfortunately, people start, they get distraught and they start drinking more, doing more, whatever it is. And next thing you know, there's more, more of those people out on the street needing housing. So,
Yeah, the demand's definitely not going to go down for this type of housing. So this is awesome. I learned a ton from this with this breakdown.
Yeah. Oh, and so I've been learning a lot about grants. I'm taking some grant writing classes, and what they say is like get projects like say you want to do an addition on, or you want to do an energy package, new roof insulation, new furnace, that kind of stuff. And then you start looking for grants that fit that, and then just start applying for them, and you can even have your AI tell you what grants to apply for, which I've done that. I've asked chat, hey, I want to replace my furnace and my roof. What kind of local grants can I apply for? And they'll tell me.
Andy, we're probably going to go down this rabbit hole. This is awesome. I learned so much about the process, and I know you're getting, people are, they see your posts, they probably message you and post in the comments, hey, how'd you do this? What are some of the common questions that you get from our school members?
Because I have a nonprofit, most common question I get is, how do you pay yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried to explain that I have a for-profit and a nonprofit running everything, and I get paid through the for-profit. And I just invoice the nonprofit because I don't want any more W-2 income. That's just a personal choice that I made. I could take some W-2 income from the nonprofit. I don't want more payroll. So that's the choice I made. And then I just invoice my nonprofit for the time that we spent for the
Very
boots on the
cool.
ground stuff.
And you just probably sat down with an accountant to kind of work out those details, I'm guessing,
I
or
did.
or ChatGPT.
At both. All of the above. Yeah.
Nice. Andy, does that kind of make sense for you?
yeah, absolutely.
And then all the money runs through my nonprofit first, and my nonprofit, doesn't pay taxes. So I'm avoiding all those taxes. Well, the nonprofit is avoiding all those taxes.
And then, yeah, we don't have a lot of people that have gone down this path we have a couple people that have, but that was usually after we spoke with them. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages, if any, of the nonprofit route?
So the advantages that I've discovered are, one, they're easier to get grants for. You can get grants for a for-profit business. So when Andrew Lamb, who was on there, his business is for-profit, and he was able to get grants to start to build out some of the programs he's working on. So anybody can get grants, but nonprofits are eligible for more grants. And then, like I said, you don't have to pay taxes on them. So far, I haven't had to pay any taxes yet. So I like that. As being a high income earner, when you have to give so much of your money away, it's really discouraging. The other thing is, working with all the agencies, because it's usually nonprofit to nonprofit. They're usually a nonprofit, unless they're like one of the county agencies. Like our county has money for 4 months of housing. They have the HARPS program, and then they have a regular community grant program that they will pay for housing. And they just have to be coming out of treatment or out of jail or have some type of disadvantage that way. And then they will pay me to house them. And they call my phone all the time. They have so many people needing housing.
Yeah. Like we said, the demand is growing.
Yeah.
And there's very little supply. It's not like you have a ton of competition in your area, I'm guessing.
And we allow people to come in on medication. So I have a little personal safe for each person. We have a door code that they get, and their door code is the same as their safe code, so they won't share their door codes with other people. And then they can lock up their medication, because so nobody else can get into them, or lock up their wallets or whatever. And then when they're evicted, we just change out the code, and that's a requirement for NAR to be able to take people who are on medication.
When you kind of applied through NAR, they like walked you through all this, right? They had like
they give you a big checkoff list of what they expect out of one of their recovery residences.
How long did it take for you to apply before you became approved?
I mean, I applied, and then they went through my policies and procedures and helped me fine tune them. Mm-hmm. And after I got that done, then they gave me the list of things they wanted for the houses. So I made sure my houses were compliant, and then I called for an inspection, and they came out and inspected all my houses on one day. And if there was something I needed to fix, I could just fix it, like put a GFI behind the washing machine. Who had known that you need a GFI behind the washing machine? I just took a picture of it, sent it to them, and then they gave me my certification.
You probably had a nice little make ready checklist.
Yes, they provide it.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. And I always just go like, it just sounds similar to Section 8. Just, I don't know, maybe that's just because I've been through it before.
It's not really. It is a program, but it's not like Section 8.
Just totally different. I mean, just the process of like working through them and working through it and doing the necessary upgrades and everything like that. So
yeah, if you want to do clean and sober, it's a good route to go.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I would say the only disadvantage is, and it's for like those folks that are, getting started out. I just, it's not required, but it would just probably the only disadvantage is probably just the time to get through everything. But it doesn't sound that hard if you're going to be a go-getter and everything.
Well, for the DOC, the Department of Corrections, I did not need to be certified. I just need to be certified with them, and their walkthrough was, I don't even know what they were looking at, because they barely walked around and put me on some list. And then I started getting people, and they pay for 6 months. And I don't know if that's common in other states, but that's been a saving grace, because 6 months worth of money is a lot.
And they pay that up front?
They just auto deposit it every month.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
And by then, they've usually got a job or something. so they can self-pay. And I do have people that are sticking with me.
Awesome. So not super long to get through the NAR. What do you think? Like a couple months, if that, a couple weeks?
I mean, you can join without even having a house. So you can just join, and then, if you get a house, then you could start working on your policies and procedures, and they'll tell you what they need to have in there, what they need to see, like grievance policy or a COVID policy, something like that. And then they would send me the examples of what they wanted to see. So I'd add them in.
Awesome. Is there a lot of fees involved?
No, it was like $200.
Awesome.
I know.
Yeah, this is very cool.
It was
Very
a gold course.
yeah. Yeah, so you guys can always bootstrap it. You can, you can probably figure this stuff out if you just pour through the podcasts and everything like that. But man, we got a ton of resources and game from this. Ton of, I'm learning a ton. My last question that I had was, are you providing any services? Like, do you need to have any staff on hand that are your employees, or what does that look like?
I don't provide any services at all because I'm unlicensed, but I am forming another company that will provide wraparound services. And we're going to be able to bill Medicaid. And I think Andrew talked about that. He's the one that gave me the idea. So I went and got my NPI number, and Washington State allows you to bill for services, which are helping them to be able to move into a normal housing, like understanding landlord-tenant law, or building a resume, or building a budget, something like that. And they'll pay $112 a day in the state of Washington for that. So I'm building a wraparound service, and it won't be me doing it, but I'll hire somebody to provide services to my 4 houses as a wraparound product.
Very interesting. I can't wait to see what the business is looking like, like a year from now.
Yeah.
You're feeling the snowball effect. You're kind of starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit.
Well, my husband goes, "How much for retiring?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Couple years in one job. I think I just am excited about building things. I like to build things and create things. The sustainability part is not really my thing. So I would hire an integrator or somebody that would do that likes that part. So I know that about myself. So I will probably have those people in place by the end of 2025.
Yeah, like the people that are, actually providing the services and everything like that.
Yeah, and doing running the systems for the businesses.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, guys, you kind of got a glimpse of the gold course a little bit over the call. We teach you how to start walking, right? And you can start walking, you can start running with this. You could scale it up. You could stick to this basic model like Andy's done for over 20 something years, right? But
Yep.
once you get walking, guys, there's so many opportunities in this space. There's so much, you know, there's so much money available, so much funds, right? Because it's needed. I mean, you can look outside in any city, any across the country, and you can see the need for this stuff. And people like Terri that are doing the work are gonna get rewarded for it. Terri, this was a real eye opener for me. Andy, what do you think about this stuff? Because we're always getting questions about this.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. I think everybody should go back in and listen to the podcast another time. Listen to it again.
Are there any other kind of common questions that you see, Terri, from people on school or anything like that we didn't address?
I think we covered it. Most people just want to know how you pay yourself if you have a nonprofit.
Very cool. And it's kind of similar to like the structure that you have, Andy. You have your real estate company, then you have the group home
Yeah.
company that just kind of rents from your real estate company.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of stuff like this, guys. But for all the listeners out there, don't get caught in the weeds. Don't pretend business, as I like to say. You guys could spend the next 2 years researching this stuff and not really taking any action and, basically lying to yourself that you're doing productive stuff and starting a business. You could spend a couple months building your website. You could spend a couple months going through the gold course, another couple months researching this stuff. And I discourage you guys from doing that. I don't want you guys to, you know, you don't have to go out and purchase a big, nice house, and kind of put your life savings on the line, but at least get started with this gold course stuff. Start picking up the phone, start talking to the local organizations in your area, and then you'll start to see the snowball effect on your end as well, like we've talked about here with Terri. So Terri, that was amazing. Definitely have to do a part two once you get rocking and rolling. Couple other properties. I'd love to hear how it works out for you when you do start getting the service side set up and you can start billing money.
Yeah, I don't even know what that looks like. I just jumped in, so
Yeah.
I have
Hey,
to figure it out.
Andrew's told me a little bit about what it looks like, and it looks, once you kind of get through the process and everything, it looks, again, it's profitable. We'll just say that it's very
That's
profitable.
what I hear.
All right.
I'll let you know.
Well, awesome.
Andrew, call me.
Yeah. we And guys, you saw the gold course. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Sign up for the free 5-part course. We're really not hiding anything from you guys. We try to give you as much information as possible to get rocking and rolling. Um, we're still learning, like you guys saw today, but we really want to get you all the information that you need. And from there, we have multiple services that'll help you, various kind of shortcuts that you can pay for, right? Join the school group. We've kind of talked about this. Terry's pretty active in there. Andrew, which we mentioned, our coaches, and a lot of the interviewees that you've heard on the podcast are active in here. Over 2,000 people, all helping each other along the path to group home riches. So, like and subscribe, sign up for the free stuff. Email us if you have any questions on our stuff. It's Brandon@grouphomeriches.com or Andy@grouphomeriches.com. Andy, let's hear your any last thoughts, questions, or final words for the people out there, or Terri, and then we'll give it to Terri to wrap it up.
Yeah, I would just say high level, things are not getting any cheaper. Yes, prices are coming down right now in a lot of areas. Real estate prices are down, egg prices are down. I understand that, but over the long term, things are going to get more expensive. You will have AI coming in, taking people's jobs, and as people lose their jobs, they're going to get discouraged. And you know what, guys? They're going to need cheap, affordable, safe housing. So I would go back, I would listen to this podcast one more time, maybe even 2 times, take some notes, and then jump on school and start asking people questions. But most important of all, get started. You got to get started.
Beautiful. All right, Terri. Just last words for the folks. Let them know
Yeah,
where they
I
can
did
find
learn
you.
a lot from the Group Home Riches Gold Course. A lot. There's a lot of meat and potatoes in there, and that's a big time saver. It's only a couple $100. It was worth my time. It was definitely worth my money. And I passed it around to my friends too. Hey, you guys got to check this out. So I would totally do that. You can't get anything for $200 nowadays. So I still go back in there and look things up. So that's what I would say. Get in there and get that done, and then go get a house.
Yep, that's it in a nutshell. Well, we definitely have to do a part two here because I'm curious. So definitely keep in touch with us. I know we'll see you in the school group, hopefully, for a long time to come. So they can reach you here in our school group. What are you under in the school group?
What am I under my name?
Yeah. So there she is in the
Yeah.
school group, guys. Look, you can search for posts that she's posted on. You can drop stuff in the comments, and I'm sure, a lot of the stuff are probably answered in those posts,
Let's
right?
see. I joined in December 2023,
Look at
so
that.
it hasn't been that long.
Yeah. You guys are seeing it, like from literally crawling to running. doing stuff that we didn't even know about in just over a year. Amazing. So they can find you in school, and then if they want to reach out to you personally, they can go to your website, correct?
Yeah, there's a phone number on there.
Thanks for giving that info, Terry. It's olivebranchculture.org and in the school group. And yeah, we definitely have to keep in touch and kind of see where this takes you. I'm excited.
Well, thanks, guys. It was good.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, again, email us if you have any questions on any of this stuff. Andy, thank you so much for coming on as well.
Take care, Brennan.
All right. Thank you so much, Terry. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.